Hope you are able to hear. So I will start the session. First of all, sorry for the inconvenience. I actually was not much experienced in Google Meet joining. Usually in office meetings and all, we join Google, we join the WebEx and Zoom now. So I was facing some issues. So without wasting any time, we'll start the session now. Hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
It is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will start with this. So, ma'am has already shared my introduction. So, my name is Saugata Das. So, I have completed my BCA from Institute, Narula Institute of Technology in 2000. And after that, I have joined Wipro. So, till now, I am working there only. So, recently, I have completed my MTech from BITS Pilani and continuing my job with Wipro only. So I mostly work in storage related domain. So I will be giving you a session on that only. So first, let us look on the contents of today. So in storage, we have multiple technologies like SAN, NAS. SAN is not only storage. I will also means SAN actually not only including storage, it is also a part of networking. The full form only you can see, right? Storage area network. So it is a combination of storage and with some concepts of network that will be used here. So let us start. So I will start with the basic things only. What is data? So I would like, but to all participants, my request is if the session is more interactive, then it will be good. Otherwise, if it is one way, then you might find it boring. So whatever question you have, you can stop me anytime and ask. So what is data? If we can start with that. Firstly, we will start with the data. What is data? Data is a raw unorganized data. Okay, if I say your name, Saugata. If I say like this, Saugata, name, study. If I share you this particular 4 keywords, will you be able to understand anything from this? Saugata, name, college, Narula. Will you be able to understand anything from out of these 4 words? No, right? But if I am sharing you a sentence that my name is Saugata Das and I have studied from Narula Institute of Technology. So this is a processed and organized data which is forming an information so that we are able to understand. The first 4 words that I have shared, that was not carrying any meaning. So I was just mentioning 4 or 5 random words. When I am structuring those words and adding some informative data into it, and then only it is carrying some meaning. So are you able to understand what is the difference between data and information? Data is collection of raw and unorganized facts, like some text, some words, some figures or symbols or some description. Whatever it is, we are just putting it as it is. But when we are processing those data and organizing and structuring those and making those in a meaningful thing, then only we are considering that as information. So when I'm telling you, my name is Saugata Das and I have studied from Narula Institute of Technology, that point of time you got a information. Okay, this person's name is this and she has studied from this university or this college. This is an information. So we got the difference between data and information. So now whenever we now we are coming to data storage. Okay, so if we have a collection of data or information but we want to keep a store of it, for example, when you are going for shopping, for example, you are going to Pantaloons or any mall, like any shopping mall you are going for. So whenever you are purchasing something from there, so whenever you are going for invoice counter, they are just scanning the barcode. They are scanning the barcode and in their screen, it is pointing like maybe am I audible, right? It is showing host muted you. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. By mistake, I have muted.
Okay, no problem, ma'am. So we are going for the invoice counter and they are scanning my product with the barcode scanner. In their computer screen, we are seeing that with the barcode, they have got a list of product. Okay, maybe my the shirt that I've purchased, that is getting listed into my bill. Okay, so in their repository, maybe for the Pantaloons repository, they have all this product listed there. So do you think that storing all this data is so easy? Means, do you feel that in one computer, they have stored all this Pantaloon data repository there? Is it possible? Or even if it is possible, if you have kept a computer and there might be a very large storage, maybe 1 TB or 2 TB or 5 TB hard disk, and there you have stored a data. So there might be a situation when the computer gets hanged, or might be a situation the OS is corrupted. So what do you feel? That particular day Pantaloons will stop their production or stop their stores and say, okay, my computer has crashed. I cannot make any business today. Do we ever have this Pantaloons? I am giving you a live example of this thing so that you can actually familiarize with these situations. Okay, so they are not storing any data in just a bare metal computer and getting access of those data, correct? So whatever products they have in their repository, all are tracked with barcodes or maybe with the IDs. Any of the things, they have some particular unique data, so with which they are able to identify. What is the unique data they are using here? That is a barcode. They are actually pasting the barcode in each and every product and they are keeping track of those. So do you feel that is very easy using with computer storage? No, right? So those data, there might be in data storage, there might be two type of things. Okay, one is centralized, another one is decentralized. So I will give you one example to so that you can identify the difference between these two. Okay, so when I am giving you the example of Pantaloons or this big merchandise stores, okay, so there might be that we are using the centralized data because across all the Pantaloon stores or across all the Big Bazaar stores, they are having their product. They are from the storehouse, they are getting their product in their particular store number, maybe store number 1, store number 2. So they have all their data stored somewhere. Okay. So this is kind of a centralized data. Or maybe in the Flipkart, if you are browsing your, you want to buy some product and you are browsing your data from Flipkart. So that is not a decentralized, that is centralized, because Flipkart have their own storage and servers and all. So they have stored their all data there. So you are searching for a television or your mobile phone, all the data, what is the IMI number, what is the product, what is the offer they are giving on, all are stored there. Okay. So whenever you are browsing, you are actually accessing those data out of there. And there is another thing which is decentralized data. Okay, I will go for the next slide. And then so decentralized data. So there are accessing the data is pretty easy because we don't have to wait for that. Maybe you are going for a college registration where you have the register now. So whenever you are absent or present, we are actually marking there. So college register or class register, whatever it is. So we are marking on that particular day you are present or absent. We are marking those things in the register. Okay. So that is, we can have that data as a decentralized data because that is the data which is only available to your department or to your college. That is not centralized. From other point of corner, you cannot access those data. That is only accessible within that domain, means only your teachers or your department members or principal or the college facilities and can only access those data. Those are not centralized. From any point of time, you any corner of that you cannot access those data. I have got one chat. Okay. But in case of centralized data, so all are stored in a one place, but they are not actually depending on one system, because system may crash, right? We cannot depend on one system. There might be multiple systems where we have taken the backup of data so that we don't lose a track of it, correct? So centralized data is stored and accessed by different application, but it is, the source is the single location. Source is single, but we are accessing from different locations. So we'll go through the pros. Data can be more easily managed, shared and protected. Like you have your Gmail account. Gmail account can be accessed from your mobile or laptop or any device you have. So same email you are actually accessing from multiple devices. So whatever, if you have created a PPT and uploaded to a Google Drive, you anytime with any device, you can open that PPT and get an access of it, correct? But if you have saved a PPT only in your system and you have not shared it to across the drive or any other system, so that particular PPT will only be accessible when you are opening that particular computer. But if I am uploading that drive to that PPT to a Google Drive or any other drive, then it will be accessible across all locations. You got my point, right? You have any doubt till this point? Anybody has any doubt till this point?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to storage networking. So how we are creating the centralized storage. So when we are talking about centralized storage, there we need to include networking into storage. Okay. So without networking, we cannot make it centralized and give the access to any device or anything. Okay. So for example, you have like the previous example, you have saved a PPT like this PPT. If I have saved in one computer, so only if I open this computer, that PPT will be accessible. But if I have my network with my system and I'm uploading that PPT to Google Drive, so I am involving networking, right? using networking, I am uploading that PPT to Google Drive so that whichever device I have with me, I can open the PPT there with the use of network. You got my point, right? How we are actually making a centralized storage with help of networking. What are the benefit? We can maybe the PPT that we have worked in now in my system, I have worked into maybe up to slide 5. And after that, I had to switch off the system and I had to go somewhere. Maybe while traveling, I feel like slide 6 can all slide 6, 7, 8. Maybe afterwards I can also create while traveling. So if I have uploaded the same file to the Google Drive or any other, this maybe the OneDrive, I can simply access that OneDrive or Google Drive from my mobile. And while traveling, I can edit the next slides and I can prepare for that, correct? So this process is quite easy. So there is improved performance, we are reliability. Why it is reliable? Because my system can crash, but when I'm uploading to Google Drive, it is safe. So you might be asking the question like Google Drive, if I'm uploading it to Google Drive or OneDrive, there might be a situation that their system also get crashed, but that situation I will make you understand. They are not keeping their storage in one place. They are making multiple backup of their systems. So whatever data they have in one place, there are multiple servers who are actually replicating those data. Do you feel that Google server will not crash anytime? It can crash anytime, but they have their backup stored in multiple cities, multiple storages. Even if one server crashes, it will fail over to another server. What does that mean? For server 1, if the storage 1, if I got crashed, it will take all backups are synchronized. Whatever data you are storing, that is actually replicating to all its secondary sites. So whenever the primary sites go down, secondary site will come up and take that part. Got my point, right? So we are actually taking help of networking and implementing this centralized storage. So we are able to do data sharing. We are able to use the storage management technologies. The data availability is more because any point of time from any device, we are able to access those. Correct? So in storage networking, there are multiple technologies like DAS, SAN, NAS. So multiple technologies are there, but since I have mostly worked in SAN, so I would like to take up those parts in SAN. So NAS also, if you want, I can give you 1 or 2 line introduction kind of thing, but not much on that. So in network storage environment, it is having multiple infrastructure based things. Okay, so application servers, storage arrays, and then interfaces or application, we have cabling. So how we are actually, maybe one Windows server is there, or Linux server is there, or ESXi or multiple Solaris servers are there. So from where we are accessing data, but the storage is different. The storage array is containing multiple disks. So I have given you a means a very layman picture here. If you can understand, this is maybe a storage rack, you can say. So which is containing multiple storage arrays out of here. So these are 4 storage arrays you can consider, and which is containing multiple drives. One drive can be 2 TB or maybe more than that, and which have controllers which are actually controlling these drives, so that we have a huge lot of storage there which we are managing. Okay. So we are introducing, getting into the SAN configuration. So I hope from this picture it will be more clear. let's see, go into this. See, these are the hosts. Okay, maybe you can consider this that this is maybe the Google storage. The storage array part, whatever this is mentioned, maybe this is the Google storage. Whatever data you are storing into it, this is the middle part, this is the storage. Okay, and maybe I am using a Solaris system or a Linux system, whatever I am using, you people are using, or we are this users holding this servers or holding these systems, which are actually connected through this storage using network. Okay, so we are this endpoints. This Sun Solaris, somebody is using Sun Solaris, somebody is using Linux server, somebody is using HPUX, somebody is using IBM. These are the servers, or we can use a system also, we can use a Windows system as well, but our goal is to access the storage. Okay, so over the network. So this storage is actually connected to the network and using, so while actually going through the network, there might be a direct connection, right? So that storage element, these are the storage arrays. Okay, why we are mentioning the storage arrays, these are the storage. The previous slide what we had, so this particular is the storage array 1, storage array 2, storage array 3, storage array 4, like this. So these have multiple drives into it, and we can create multiple volumes and pools. These are all storage elements. So by the time we go further in the slides, I will make you understand what and all things are there. So that might be difficult now, but as we progress much, so I hope you will be able to understand those. So SAN is a block level dedicated network storage that carries data between computer system and storage devices. Like disk arrays are there, tape libraries, optical jukeboxes, like this. Okay, so SAN actually can support disk mirroring, like we mentioned, right? So backup and restore, data migration from one storage device to other storage device. Backup and restore I mentioned, right? For maybe if there was a fault scenario where one storage device got faulted, so if I have backup of that data, so I can access from another server, correct? So we can back up from there, and from the server one, if the storage one has got crashed, if my storage 2 has that same data replicated there, so I can access my data from storage 2 when there is a fault situation. So I am accessing all my data from storage 2, and when the fault is recovered, then storage 1 again will be becoming the primary storage of it. So there is 2 storage. If I am taking example, there are two storage systems. Storage 1 is having all the data, and I have made that system as my primary system. So there might be a situation that the place that storage 1 is placed into, that place has got power outage. So my storage 1 is now offline, but I need that data immediately, because maybe there might be a hospital which is running out of this storage. Hospital has multiple patients, their health records, there maybe the diagnosis is going on, the diagnostic reports, all are stored there. So during one operation, if you want that data immediately, you are going for, the doctor is going for the operation and need that diagnostic data for operation to take further. So at that point of time, if you are accessing the storage, the centralized storage from your system, and if you're seeing that your storage is offline, will you wait that, okay, my storage is offline, I cannot take forward my operation. When the storage comes online, then only I can take for my operation. Is this possible in real life scenario? No, right? I need to take it forward because the patient may die. So in that situation, my primary storage, if my primary storage is down but I need the data, right? There might be multiple scenarios like this, the hospitals, the stores and all. So what will happen in that particular scenario? Storage 2 is actually the secondary, but in this faulty scenario, that storage 2 will actually will be the primary, will act like a primary. It is still a secondary, but will act as a primary, so that it will fail over. Once the storage 1 is failed over, all the access, all the persons who are actually accessing the LUNs and all will be redirected to storage 2. So now users can access the storage, but user will not be able to understand. Do you think that whenever we are accessing any data online, and if the one Google server is down and it is replicating to Google server 2, are we able to understand? We do not, means user will not be able to understand, but in storage it will take place. The failover, if from server 1 to server 2, if it is going, it will fail over, but that time is maybe less than a microsecond or something. Okay, so it will fail over to the second storage, and you will be actually able to, there will be no downtime. So you will be able to understand, able to get the data, access the data from that storage. And in the meantime, if that storage 1 has got this power back, then it will again fail back to the previous storage. So that is how this centralized storage and the SAN things are working. See, these are the storage array. Okay, so disk array we are mentioning. So there are multiple disks which are storing data, and clients are sitting here. So client 1, client 2, client 3, which are who are all connected to local area network. Okay, and some application they are accessing. Maybe you are accessing WhatsApp. Okay, so WhatsApp is running into server. One particular server they have installed WhatsApp, and with which you are accessing. So if you see that WhatsApp is not working. Okay, some point of time we see like WhatsApp or Facebook is down. So in that point of time, there are multiple backup servers which are actually taking place of that. So there is, your data is stored here. If you can see my mouse pointer, so this is the disk array, or the multiples arrays are there which are storing my data. My application is running on this 3, server A, server B, server 3. On one particular server, it is running application A. Server B, it is running application B. Server C, it is running application C. Might be this is the WhatsApp, this is Facebook, this is another storage, this is another application they are running. But all storage they are getting from this particular set of storage arrays. From there, they are getting their storage. So in this server A, they are accessing this storage. So this storage may go down. So if they have a backup storage plan for this, there might not be a scenario when your storage goes offline. The secondary storage will come and take a backup, take the place of the primary storage. Correct? So from this network environment diagram, do you have any doubt? Means, am I able to make you understand what is the thing going on here?
Students, if you have any confusion, you can ask. Shagota, only 9 minutes left. Please complete your session within that time.
Okay, sure. So now we will continue with the components of SAN. Okay, those are very important, because when we are saying that our storage is connected to any particular host, then these are very much important, because without any cable connection, we might be using it centralized and we cannot see the connection, but where it is configured, no, the storage arrays are actually connected to the servers. So maybe my application is running on a server. That particular server is might be having their internal storage. maybe I'm using a HP servers, or maybe the market standard servers, IBM servers, or the Dell servers, whatever servers we are using. Maybe I'm installing my application. My application is actually deployed on that particular server, and now I want to access that particular application. So, but my internal storage is very limited, right? If I want more storage in that, so I will directly attach a storage array with that server. So how that attachment will happen? That attachment will happen using this components of SAN. Okay, this is the HBA. So there are multiple protocols that we use while making the connection between the storage arrays and the servers. So we use FC, the fiber channel, the iSCSI, the Internet over SCSI, that, and the SAS cables that we use. So these are the few examples of the HBAs, the pictures I have taken. So first one is the FC HBA. So this is the card that will be installed in your server so that you can actually connect the storage arrays with your server. The second one is the iSCSI. This cable looks like Ethernet cable. That is the one that looks like Ethernet cable. The SAS cable. This is the SAS adapter we use. So these are the devices which are installed in the servers, or we can install separately in our server so that we can get connected to the storage. So next component of SAN, that is switch. Okay, so I have one server and one storage. So if I am directly connecting to it, then only one-to-one cable is enough. But if I have only one storage, if you Google that how the HP or IBM or Dell, this clients, the storage, the Nexenta, the storage providers have their storage arrays, those are very much costly. So for one application or for one application server, if you use that, will not be much cost effective. Okay, so that will be very much costly. So we can have one of our storage array, and we can connect one storage array to multiple hosts. So multiple hosts might be having multiple application installed into it, like we have seen in this, right? So this is the storage array with which they have 3 servers, and server A is having application A deployed, and server B has application B deployed, server C has application C deployed. But we need a switch here. Otherwise, if we want to make a connection out of it, we could have connected this one-to-one. So this disk array to server A, or separately another disk array to server B, another disk array to server C. Like this we could have done. Simply configure a network. We will configure a SAN network here, and we will add a FC switch, so that this array will be connected here in the SAN, and all these servers will be connected to the same switch, so that whatever servers are there, all can access the same storage. There might be a multiple drive installed in a particular storage array. There might be 10 TB or 20 TB or maybe more than that. That can have 28 TB. There you can connect your JBODs with a one storage. You can connect multiple JBODs, just a bunch of disks it stands for. So there we do not have the controllers, but you can have the attachment, like you have the external hard disk. You can add JBODs like that to your storage arrays, so that you can increase your storage. So like this, we are using this FC switch. These are the FC cable. The picture, if you can refer, like this, this one is the FC HBA, which will be installed in your server. And this plug you can see, right? This is the same plug they are using here. So this is the FC switch with which they will be connecting, so that one particular storage if you have, and if you have multiple application servers, you can get connected into that. So this is a typical example of storage array. This is the front side. I have given this picture here for your reference. So multiple storage drives are installed here. So you can make volumes out of it. You can, after creating volume, you can map it to your server. So application server, you can map your volume into, so that with using that volume, like I will give you one example. In computer, you have local disk E, F, G, H like this, right? You have installed a Windows system. So there you have local disk E, local disk F, like this you have. So now you want to increase your storage. So if you are having a storage array, and if you are connecting to your system, so in storage array, there are controllers with which you can create multiple volumes, whatever drives you are getting installed into this storage array. No? So you can create multiple volumes which can be mapped into your system. And in Windows, we have disk management. Using disk management, you can create a LUN volume with that, and you can make another drive like local disk, maybe M. You can create there, and you can increase your volume in the storage of your system using like this. So management system, like I mentioned, there will be controllers. So controllers will be giving you an UI. You are actually having this drives, but when you are using these drives and making a volume out of it, you need an interface, right? So there might be WBI, might be the web interface or CLI interface with which you will be using these drives and creating volume out of it, so that you can map that volume and create a LUN and make use of those LUNs.
Well, I am interrupting for 1 minute. Only 1 minute left. Shagota, should we rejoin the session again, if you so that we can continue with the topic? Hello, Shagota. Can we rejoin again? Shogata, can we rejoin with the same link again, since it is going to disconnect at any time?
Okay, thank you.
Students, I will be sharing the admission link, attendance link once again. Please fill it. Those who have not filled.
Okay. So till the time we have discussed, do you have any doubt up to this? Do you have any doubt? If you have, we can go ahead with the doubt, and then we'll proceed with the next topic.
Oh, yes. Can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a doubt. Like, suppose one application running using multiple servers and multiple components are there in an application. So, can I run multiple applications with a multiple server? And if yes, then it will be which server or which component will be response with a particular condition. It will be conducted by the coding or the server itself.
Okay. So what you meant, like if you have one application which is running up to one server, correct?
Basically, I want to mean that one application, there is multiple components, right? So I want to run so multiple components. I want to run the application with multiple servers. Each server will have one component so that it will be faster to run. So is it possible?
Okay, first of all, Videsh, my classmate, happy to see you here. Yeah, okay. So your question is like, can you, your application is actually using multiple servers and you want to get the access of storage from multiple servers, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you have one storage And if you are configuring SAN or maybe another network, whatever network configuration you want to configure there. So if you are configuring like this, I will show you the, see, you can consider this picture. Maybe you have one storage. This is the right hand side, maybe one storage array. And if you have one application, do not consider application A, application B, and application C. Okay. Consider only one application is running over these 3 servers, but you want to use one single storage. So yeah, easily you can create a switch which will all servers will have there, so that you can, so all your HBS others can go on mutely.
Please, everyone, please mute themselves. Wait, I'm muting.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Shagota, now you can continue.
So now this particular storage is connected to this switch. Okay, so switch is configured here. So you have got your FC. I am taking example of FC cable. So all this storage is connected to this FC switch, and all your servers have FC HBA connected to it. So all FC HBAs will be connected to this switch now. So all these 3 connection is already made. Just consider one storage is added from this side.
Okay. And this client server will connect to the local area, and it will be connected to the servers, right? So yeah, by taking the request, yeah, get it.
Is it clear, Videsh?
Yeah.
Happy to see you. So anybody else has any questions?
It's so nice to see both of you interacting with each other.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, if we do not have any open questions, so we'll proceed further. So for your reference, Videsh, this is a FC switch, which might be having connection from your servers and as well as the storage system that you are having currently. So all will be connected to this FC switch, and you will be configuring your switch with the VLAN network you can configure there, so that your virtual network will be configured. So all storage, all servers connected to this same switch will be accessible across your systems.
Okay. So this is an example of the server, right? Picture?
This is the FC switch, the backside of a FC switch.
Okay.
So the server backside will be having, in the server backside will be having this FC HBS. The circuit you will not be able to view, but the only plugs you will be able to view. The metal part you will be only able to view. The inside part, this circuit will be there.
Okay.
So one plug you will be inserting here, the orange one part you will be inserting here, another part will be inserted here in the back side of the switch. And the similar cable will be connected to the FC switch to the storage system.
Okay. Same thing will be on the other side.
Yes.
No.
This is the storage system, but this is the front view. In the back view, there will be controllers and all. So, but actually that depends on the storage providers you are using. Multiple storage providers have multiple structure of their hardware. But if it is a front or back or right side or left side, there will be some point there will be HBS connections and all will be there. So SFPs and all, there will be ports where you need to connect your FC cable or iSCSI cable or SAS cable, whatever you feel like. So in case of iSCSI and FC, the centralized process is much easy, but because in case of SAS, you need to have the direct connection. There is no concept of using switch. So only one server to one storage.
Okay.
There is one Y cable also, but that will be also means 1 to 2. But 1 to many connection will not be possible there, because we are not using switch there. Because in case of SAS, there is no use of switch. If you are using switch in iSCSI or in FC, whatever you use, you can use multiple storage, multiple servers, whatever you feel like, based on your requirement.
Okay.
Okay, so now we are coming to type of storage. So primary storage and secondary storage, we all know, right? So RAM is the primary storage. These are the very basic things we learn in our school days or college days. So what we call it as primary storage, we RAM or cache memory are the primary storage, and secondary storage is the one where we can actually store the data like forever until the time we want to wipe it out. Okay, so now comes to the point when we will be discussing about RAID, which is the most important, I repeat, most important topic in storage technologies, because until and unless we are grouping our drives and making a volume or LAN out of it, there is no use of spending dollars and rupees in your buying your storage. Okay, if you cannot create a RAID, if you cannot understand the RAID to make use of your drives to grouping it into a volume, there is no use of your storage actually. So there are storage drives connected to your storage systems, but until and unless you can make a volume out of it, there is no use, correct? So in RAID, there are multiple functionalities like data stripings, data mirroring, parities and all that you can actually, if there is more, means if you can Google and all, if you will be able to understand about what is striping, what is parity and all, those are means kind of, I can mention you like mathematical calculation, this how this disk technologies are actually getting used. Okay, so there are multiple RAID levels which we are using. So how to RAID is very much important to make use of those drives. My drives are actually connected, but there might be 20 TB, 30 TB. I'm always taking example of TB. Why so? Because GB is in my local system, I can install GB. That is not much. When we are thinking from the perspective of a storage provider, if you, the minimum you can talk about is TB. Okay, there is also GB, but GBs and MBs and all, but I am taking minimum of TB because I'm talking about storage providers, storage arrays. Those are having havoc limit of their in one storage array. If you like the example Videsh mentioned, no, he have one storage array, but that he is not having budget of buying another storage array. In that point of time, like we are adding one external drive to my system in our PC, in local system that we are doing, like that same procedure we can add simply a JBOD that is not costing much as the storage array. So we have one storage array, we are simply adding multiple JBODs behind of it to make my storage larger and larger. But the drives that we are using all will be using RAID technologies to make pools, like pools, whatever. If I am coming to a pool, means pool is having water element, but in case of storage, pool is having disk elements or storage elements coming under one umbrella. So here pool is one umbrella which is containing multiple drives out of it. So maybe I will take example of RAID 5 only, because that is the RAID 5 and RAID 6 are the most used ones. So in my slides, if you refer, you will be having idea of multiple rates, but since rate 5 and rate 6 are the most used ones, I will take example of those only. So here what we do know, maybe in rate 5, the minimum drive that we need to take is 3 drives for configuring one pool or one disk group, whatever you talk. So this concept, these words, pool or disk groups or RAID groups, whatever these terminologies are all related to the storage providers. If you change your storage providers, these terminologies will be changing, but the technology behind it, the rate, that will be same across all. Okay. So you might be having 10 drives in your storage arrays inserted there, but for creating one RAID 5 disk group or RAID group or pool, why I am using 3 terminologies? Because based on the storage providers, this all will change. The terminologies will change, but the technology will be same. So I am creating one RAID group. What it is doing? It is actually collecting the storage of 3 drives and giving you one logical entity. The storage drives are physically present. Like, okay. So for example, if you are going to buy a flat, okay, one apartment you want to buy. So when you are visiting that place, if you are seeing there might be 1000 square feet area. Okay. But that area is collection of multiple, maybe they have created a structure, there are multiple pillars, and all, they have created the walls and all, they have given you one area. But till the time you are making more walls out of it and making one bedroom, one kitchen, one drawing room, one dining, these are the partitioning. These are the partitioning you are making so that you can make use of it differently. For your different uses, you can make different partitioning. So for study room, for studying, you want a separate room, you are making a wall, 4 walls you are creating there, so that one study room is created so that you can go and study there. So I have got a pool. Pool means this whole 100,000 square feet area, and from that pool I am creating volumes. Volumes are the logical partitioning. I am creating logical partitioning of the volume. Maybe one volume you are creating, like in your laptop also, if you are having local disk E, C, D like this, you are using one partitioning of it. Maybe you are storing one partition, all your educational related document are actually stored in one partition. In another partition, maybe you are storing all the movies and musics that you are listening for your entertainment purpose or time pass, whatever you are doing, you have stored there. So these are the partitioning we are doing from the whole pool. So volumes are those. I have the total square feet of area. I am making partition of it using the walls so that I can make use of it. But what is RAID? RAID are those just disks with the pillars. They are the pillars and the main walls, the boundary walls. But with only the boundary walls and pillars, we cannot do anything. We are grouping the boundary walls, we are grouping the pillars so that we can make a total space of 1000 square feet. After that, based on my requirement, I will be partitioning all those so that I can make, if I want to cook anything, I will go to the kitchen. I need a separate room as my kitchen. So I will be creating a separate partition for my kitchen. I will creating a separate partition for my dining. So like this, the whole flow will be going on. So for example, in RAID technology, if they are using in RAID 5, they are using minimum of 3 drives. Why they need that? Because if you are writing like this, they have taken an example of, in this picture, there is 4 drives. So minimum is 3 drives. More than that, you can also take, right? So 4 drive is taken here. So if you are writing A1, A2, A3 like this, only in one drive you are not writing A1, A2, A3. So the data that you are writing is actually distributed across your drive. And here the data striping and parity is. So if any of this drive is crashed, no, you are actually adding one parity data here. So A1, A2, A3 and parity of that drive, parity of that data is stored into another drive. So even if one drive is failed, with the help of parity and other drive, you can actually get back the actual data. That is the beauty of using RAID. But do you feel all RAID gives this opportunity? No. If I refer this one, the RAID 0, there is no parity. There is no parity. Here, whatever drive you allocate, 2 drive you are allocating, disk 1 and disk 2. All will be used for storing your data. But in case of failure of any one drive, there is no chance of getting back your data. So that is the reason they came up with newer RAID level. So now if I am coming back to RAID 1, whatever data, the minimum is 2. Minimum of 2 HDD is needed here. Why so? Whatever data you are copying here, no? So it is storing the data in one drive. So maybe in disk 1 they are storing and it is doing a mirroring of it. Means whatever data is coming in disk 1 will be totally mirrored in disk 2. So internally this RAID technology is mirroring all your data to the second drive. So there also we have some advantage because the performance is good, but even if this disk 1 fail, I will get back my disk data from disk 2. But there is also a disadvantage because write process will be slow. How? Whatever data it writes here, no, in block 1, maybe it has written A. So in the drive 2, block 1, it will be again write block means A. So whatever data you are writing in disk 1, it is actually internally it is writing every data in disk 2. So all the data are getting mirrored. So likewise we have RAID 10. So where we have mirroring and striping. So block 1, like this example, if you can take block 1 and block 1 is mirrored to disk 2. In drive 1, we have written block 1 and this block is also mirrored to disk 2. Same way, block 2 is written in drive 3 and same is mirrored to drive 4. And the whole thing is striped together. This is RAID 10. So here we have good performance in read and write is also improvised because we are combining those two technologies. But when we are considering this RAID 01, so RAID 1 was like this, 1 and RAID 0 and RAID 1. These two technologies we are combining here. In RAID 01 also we are combining, but the structures are different. What is the difference? Here you go. Here, block 1 means in drive 1, block 1 was written. In drive 2, block 1 was actually mirrored. And these two mirrored things are actually striped or made together. So it was 1, 0 and it is totally the reverse thing of it. A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6 all are written and the whole thing is mirrored here. So here we are doing the striping first and then doing the mirroring. But in case of RAID 1, 0, we are doing the mirroring first and then we are doing striping. But here, what you are feeling, no, in RAID 0, whatever data, whatever drives we were allocating, there was no wastage. Maybe the drive 1 is having 50 GB and drive 2 is having 50 GB, another 50 GB. So while writing data, you have 100 GB, you can write 100 GB here. But when the redundancy or these concepts are coming, no, so that you do not lose data. So you are writing maybe RAID 5 example for this one, 4 drives are there. But in 1, 2, 3, these 3 drives you are writing, but this another drive is actually being used for parity. So if this drive is 50 GB plus 50 GB plus 50 GB plus 50 GB, the user accessible data means user can only use this 150 GB. This another 50 GB system will reserve for the RAID parity. So you can say that whatever amount I'm investing in buying my drives, that is all usable in RAID 0. That is true. But when it comes to redundancy, no, there is no redundancy in case of RAID 0 because we are not storing that data across multiple drives. So if you lose one drive, maybe your one drive is actually faulty, you lost your data. But in case of RAID 5 or RAID 6 or other technologies, we are actually mirroring or striping or other technology parity. We are using parity. So we can do XOR operations here to get back my data. Maybe my drive 1 got lost. That is totally faulty. So from the parity, we can do XOR operations and other. If you want to know more about it, you can actually Google with RAID types and their internal technologies. You will be able to understand how this are working. So you can do a XOR operation here to get back your disk 0 data. So in case of this, you can also have your spare data. So in case of your one drive is getting fault, maybe this 0 is getting fault, you can have your spare data, spare drive, which will be added, maybe a global spare or a dedicated spare, which will come and take place of this drive. So all data of this faulty drive will be now part of that spare data. So spare data now pool will, spare drive pool will take over. So pool will take that spare drive over so that faulty drive will be replaced with the spare drive. Okay. So I'm not going much deeper into this. I'm proceeding with the next concept that is called virtualization. Okay. So up to this point, is it clear to all of you? Do we have any open question? Okay. There is silence, so I can consider there is no question. So I will proceed further. Okay. So now coming to the most interesting topic, that is virtualization. We heard about this term many a times, but we'll try to understand. I will try to make you understand what does this mean. So better we start with this picture. Okay. So we have this server. The server might be having the first, okay, the left hand side picture you take reference. Okay. This server is having its own CPU, its memory, its network interface card, its internal drives and all are installed here. And out of that, you have created one operating system. So what operating system is doing? Operating system is helping you to communicate with your internal hardwares. So whatever hardwares are installed in your system, without help of operating system, you cannot communicate with that. Means you cannot make use of your CPU, you cannot make use of your disk drive that you have installed in your server. Operating system is actually helping you to access those hardware resources that your server or your system is having. Okay, so why I'm taking example of server. You can consider your own system as well. Your system have maybe 4 GB RAM or 1 TB hard disk, whatever you call it as, while buying a laptop or a desktop from So you consider these parameters, but until and unless you have an operating system, you cannot actually make use of those hardwares, correct? But this is a server I'm actually taking example of. So before virtualization, this was the scenario. So there might, do you feel while buying, you are considering I need 8 GB of RAM and maybe 2 TB of hardware ID. But do you feel at any single point of time, the resources that you are paying for are all getting utilized at the same time? No, right? Maybe you are watching a movie, maybe you are running an application, whatever you are doing at the same point of time, whatever resource you are paying for, all cannot be used. So if you open a task manager, you can see how much percentage of your CPU you are using, or how much percentage of drive you are using. So isn't it a waste of the resources that you are buying for or you are paying for? There comes the concept of virtualization. With the same resources, we can allocate across multiple users, so that the resources are never underutilized. So virtualization is the creation of virtual, means it is kind of a visual, you cannot view it, it is all virtualized, you cannot view it, but it is a logical kind of a concept. It is, virtualization is the process of creating software-based representation rather than the physical one. Physically, the hardware is here, the server is here, but we are creating multiple logical partitioning out of it. In the second picture, if you refer, no, the CPU is same, the memory is same, the network interface card is same, the disk is same, but we are creating a virtualization layer here. So here I have taken example of VMware virtualization layer, which is a VMware product. You can take example of Microsoft, for Microsoft Windows also have their hypervisor environment. So here I have taken VMware, you can consider Microsoft as well. So here I am installing a VMware virtualization layer or a Windows virtualization layer with which I am creating a hypervisor. What is the hypervisor? This is a concept, okay? So which is actually creating this environment so that, see, here parallelly two operating systems are installed, and on top of that, 2 separate applications are getting installed, but all are using the same underlying hardware. So in case of this, only one application and one operating system was using this underlying resources. But when we came to the virtualization concept, all the underlying storage and all the underlying hardware resources are actually getting used by multiple applications and multiple operating systems. Here I have taken example of 2. There might be multiple things. Okay, so when it comes to virtualization, this example was the server virtualization example. There are multiple virtualization concepts like server virtualization, network virtualization. I mentioned about VLAN. To Videsh, I mentioned VLAN. That is the network virtualization concept. I am creating a virtualized network. So there is desktop virtualization, storage virtualization, OS virtualization, application virtualization, and administrative virtualization. So firstly, we'll consider server virtualization and then we'll come to storage virtualization. So up to this point, it is clear. If it is clear, then we'll proceed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if I'm taking example of VMware, no? So VMware has created an operating system which is called ESXi. Many of you might be knowing ESXi, which is actually operating system. Like we have Windows, like we have Linux, or any other operating system you call it as. VMware is a company which has created a operating system which is ESXi. But ESXi has another feature which is called the hypervisor feature. We have created this virtualization environment with the hypervisor feature. This is hypervisor is a feature, okay? But only if it is installed on a bare metal server, then only ESXi can behave like a hypervisor. If you have if you have installed ESXi OS on a virtual machine, then it will not behave like a hypervisor. It will only behave like a hypervisor. I repeat myself, it will only repeat like a hypervisor only if it is installed on a bare metal server. What is the term mentioned about bare metal server? Means there is nothing installed on a server. That is totally a bare metal server, only a bare metal box. On top of it, if you are installing a ESXi as a OS, it will also behave like an OS. Along with that, it has a feature of hypervisor so that you can create a virtualization environment out of it. You can create multiple VMs out of it, and multiple VMs can have multiple OS installed on it, and all will be using the single storage or single hardware resources. Those are installed in the server. Could I make you understand? So for
can you repeat one more time? Server virtualization.
Okay.
Yeah, this portion.
Okay, so you want me to repeat this one?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I will take this example of this picture. Okay, so this is my hardware. Hardware means the server that I have bought. Maybe Videsh, you have this server. This is a physical server. Okay, and this has its own CPU, own hardware, own network interface card, everything it has installed in it. So if I have host OS, anything other than any OS which does not have any hypervisor feature, in that case, only one of my this OS will only have that access to that underlying hardware, and the application deployed on this OS will only have access on this hardware. Okay, but if I am installing ESXi or the Microsoft hypervisor, then only I can make multiple virtual machine out of it. So this is the virtualization layer created, and now I can create multiple virtual machine, and there I might have the Windows, Linux, and VMware, ESXi, multiple things, and multiple application will be installed on top of it. So ESXi will only be acting as a hypervisor if it is installed on a bare metal server. So for example, in this particular, if you can see my mouse pointer, this guest OS is installed as VMware ESXi, but this ESXi is only a OS. This is now not a hypervisor because this is installed on a virtual machine, not on a bare metal server. When the image is installed on a actual hardware, the physical hardware, the bare metal server, that case it will be having the feature of hypervisor. So if you can ask me a question that in this particular third virtual machine, I have installed VMware ESXi, so I can create multiple virtual machine out of it? No, you cannot, because here it is only a guest OS. It is not a hypervisor. When this host show in the physical server, when it is installed, then only it is a hypervisor. Otherwise, it is not.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
So I think this meeting is remaining with the 155 minutes. So ma'am, do you want us to rejoin or?
I think this much is enough for students. Although you are explaining very well, you are going into the depth of the subject, but I don't think the students will be able to take up so much concept in just one day. So maybe we will require one more session any other day. We will continue with the topic. Okay.
Okay.
Students.
So any question up to this?
Yes. If there are any questions, anyone want to ask any questions, you can. So I don't think there is any more questions. Saugata, thank you very much for giving such an enriching speech on the topic. Videsh, if you want to say something to her, some vote of thanks, you can say.
Contact আছে বলবো না, through social media আমাদের contact already আছে, so আমাদের already মানে মাঝে মাঝেই কথা হয়, last মনে নেই, but আমাদের মাঝে মাঝেই কথা হয়. So
both of you are intelligent and full of knowledge, and for a teacher, so much, ma'am. And for a teacher, it is really a matter of joy to see that their students are growing so much. I couldn't even believe that Saugata, who was just a small kid, which I have seen in BCA, and she is